Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Ready, Set, Action. I am Kristina Witmer, a marketing veteran.
Hi, everyone. I'm Deb Horowitz. I'm a talent.
We are so happy to be here. We love these episodes where we get to guide business leaders with actionable tactics for immediate business growth. Thank you to our guest, Virginia Sharp March. She is here with us. She is a leadership and team coach and motivational speaker. She helps business owners and leaders become self aware, confident, and helps them build cohesive teams, boost morale, and enhance efficiency for business success. Welcome, Virginia.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, great to have you. Before we jump into questions, why don't you just tell us the best way for people to connect with you if they want, to ask more questions?
Certainly. They can reach out to me either on LinkedIn at Virginia Sharp March or on my website, virginiasharpmarch.com. And all my contact information is there. And I always welcome meeting people for virtual coffee or just a discovery call to find out and connect.
Awesome. Sounds great. I've been looking forward to this conversation as a business owner myself. The always looking at yourself from another view is so helpful because you get so, siloed into things. So, my first question is really about sort of that default style trap. We all have, when it comes to the DiSC quadrants, we all have sort of this home base. Can you explain why a leader's greatest strength, for example, maybe being decisive or whatever it is, can actually become a productivity killer? Like if they don't learn how to sort of go outside of those boundaries?
Certainly. And you're right. We do all have a set point. And when it comes to stress or different situations, we all tend to go back to that. But that doesn't mean that we can flex our muscles in other ways. So the biggest thing when we find that we are going to that set point, and as you mentioned, the D's are dominant. They can be very decisive and direct, very task oriented. If someone finds that they're going back to that, the first thing is self-awareness, is just knowing, okay, what is my set point? Is it that direct decisiveness, a little bit unapologetic, or is it that I personality? It's like, let's just go have a good time. I've got all these ideas. So when we start to have that awareness of where our set point is, we can then pause and try to flex into our other strengths that are needed. That D, they become impatient. That I, they sometimes lack follow through. And that self-awareness to realize that you're doing that can help you pause. Perhaps even at that moment, allow someone else to come into the picture, another leader on your team, and say, you know what, I'm just having a hard time connecting to this point. This project isn't going quite as I expected. Can you give me some insight as to what you're seeing? And being able to have that trust of other people on your team is so important. And along with the awareness of what their strengths are. And so we can lean into the people that are more enthusiastic or more steady and more bringing people in as a team. I spoke to a client one time and he talked about how he was leading meetings, and he was very direct, which meant, let's get to the task at hand, let's follow through. But I guess I need to start asking people, well, how's your weekend? And have a little bit of chit chat to lighten the load. It's like, absolutely. So he had that self-awareness to realize what was happening, that he was jumping too far into the situation without asking for input and just making everyone feel comfortable. So I think that's the biggest thing, is that self-awareness and awareness of others on your team so you can bring them into the situation.
Mm-hmm. That actually really hits home. I think about a year ago or maybe less, I actually added 15 minutes on the calendar in front of the weekly meeting to just a coffee chat, how's it going? Like I had to mentally tell myself to do that, which is pretty funny.
It doesn't seem so important to some, because I have worked with clients and they're like, specifically, I'm thinking of someone who's on a nonprofit board. She goes, I'm not necessarily here to make friends, though I'm going to be friendly with everybody. But she realizes that, so she does the same thing. She asks about how people are doing. She follows up when she knows there's concerns. And those touch points and that communication is going to go so far in all the relationships.
I think it's good too, like on the other side of it, for me, being aware that sometimes, like some clients or some consultants on the team want that direct approach.
Yes.
That's what they prefer. They don't want the warm and fuzzy and all of that stuff. They just want to get to the point and get on with their day, right? And so being aware of that too, and being able to change my dynamic.
Yes. Absolutely.
And let the focus be on them and what they need as opposed to what I need, at that moment.
Right.
Yeah.
Great.
And so, there's I think within the DiSC system, there's this thing versus speed versus stability, right? You've got those two different dynamics going on, right? And you've got, I don't even know if everybody really knows what DiSC is. Maybe we should take a moment just to kind of let you tell the audience what that is, because we're going to be starting to talk about D's and I's and all of those sorts of things. So, can you do that?
Absolutely. That's a really good point, Deb. So the DiSC personality assessment was created back in the late 1920s, early 1930s by William Marston. And I always love to share two Jeopardy. So one day you're going to be on Jeopardy and you're going to be asked these questions. One is William Marston and his wife created the lie detector test. And he's also the creator of Wonder Woman.
Oh, how interesting.
Really?
Yes. Yeah. So I always share that. I just find that very fascinating. But he recognized that there's patterns in how we behave and act. And people are all different, but he would say we're predictably different. He came up with 4 divisions. One is the dominant, the D, as we say, very direct person, task focused. They are outgoing. They are comfortable in a group. But when it comes to a question, they want to know what needs to get done, and let's get it done. They want the 30,000-foot view. They don't want all the details, all the teeny tiny details, and they don't want the emotions.
Okay.
Our eyes are very influencing, very encouraging, motivation. They are the spontaneous members of our team. If you have them in charge of a meeting, it's going to be a fun meeting, but we may not come up with enough action steps. And our eyes want to know who's going to be there. They want to be appreciated. Our S's are our steady, and that's the majority of our population are S's. They like to build consensus. Their question is, how are we going to do it? Because they realize that our time, resources, and our human resources are limited. But when the D's and the I's have these great ideas and they say, go do it, our S's are going to say, okay, so how are we going to do it? Mm-hmm. They're great listeners. They're patient. They are a little bit slower to act, but they will act once they understand the situation. Their biggest fear is confrontation. As I mentioned, the majority of our people are S's, so a lot of conversations that aren't being had. Mm-hmm. And then our C's are compliant. They are very detail-oriented, very organized. They like to a lot of times work on their own. They're reserved, very task-oriented, persistent. They like to be right, and they don't like to be told that they're wrong. Their question is why. If you are working with a D, they're going to ask you a lot of questions, which then makes you wonder if they are trusting your information. But no, that's just how they process things. And we all are a bit of everything. Some of them are stronger in one area over the other. Once we're aware of where we're stronger, where we're weaker, we can adapt to whatever situation is there. So I can see you, Deb, as that eye, that encourager and enthusiastic, because you always bring this positive vibe to every
Agreed.
situation and make everyone feel great.
I try. So, all right. So the question at hand is, so you've got the D's and I's that are typically in that fast-paced category, right? Throwing out all of the ideas and all of that. And then you've got the S's and C's that are saying, oh my God, what are we going to do with all of this? And how do we make it happen, right? So they're prioritizing how to move it through the process and everything. So how can a leader use this format, the DiSC format, to manage the tension that's going back and forth between the group? This is a great idea, but we'll never be able to get it accomplished because of X, Y, and Z. And how do you create, as a leader, lead them to like the execution phase?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I love this question because so many of us we have projects, project management. Maybe a lot of times it's focused around technology because technology is always changing, or maybe it is within our culture because things are adjusting and we're having to restructure the tree, our personnel tree. So first thing is the vision, making sure the vision is really clear. To come to the team and say, we're going to make this change, they want to know, well, why are we going to make this change? What's the end game? So when you have the vision, you can recognize where we're at now. And this is great. Let them know what's working, but what's not working. And this is why we're making that change. Keeping everyone as informed as much as possible throughout the process and allowing them different ways to learn about the process. I think back to when I was within libraries, and we would migrate from one computer system to another. And that's a big thing because librarians, we tend to find a structure. We love the structure. Let's make it work. When I knew a change was coming, I would first make sure my leadership team was in on the ground floor with me, because they had to have buy-in. And that was the vision, was, okay, this is what we're going to be doing. And then I would allow them, whether it be going to another library to see it in action, going to webinars, asking questions, being part of that implementation. That's very important, I believe, in any type of change. So yes, you may have your D's and I's and they're ready for that change. Let's move forward. This is great. Okay, but we've got the rest of the team to bring in. One might think it will slow down the process. However, you want the process to be successful. And to be successful, you need to have the whole team on board. So going through that vision, what we're going to do, informing everybody, and then asking for input when possible, and having everyone part of the implementation team, then I believe there's going to be better buy-in and moving forward. I have found that to work well. I'm working with a client right now, and she's going through the same thing, personnel changes, and she's keeping everyone informed. Another piece of that is recognizing we don't know everything.
Right.
I mean, how many times have we gone through a change and there's going to be some issues, but we're not aware of them yet. And when you know that, reassuring the team that, yes, we realize this, but let's move forward together. Let's discover the answers together. The communication is so important, and the buy-in is so important too.
So I guess a little more about the building teams, which you've touched on. So for example, if a leader finds that they have maybe a lot of, high I, like enthusiasts, but no C, the detail checkers. I mean, what are the risks there, and how does DiSC sort of help you like fix that or fix the gap there?
First of all, the DiSC is going to be able to identify those gaps.
Yeah.
I actually have a team that I work with and they're almost all C's and S's. So not very few I's and very few D's. So who's making the decisions? Who's keeping the team energized? When we recognize that, we can then try to flex those weaker areas of our personalities. Now, what you can do as far as if you're able to hire, you want to be able to create questions and interview that are going to focus in on those weaknesses of your team. But not everyone has that flexibility that they're going to be hiring new people. So we have this team right here. How do we acknowledge that? And that's the biggest thing, is that acknowledgement of where are our gaps and finding out ways to strengthen those gaps. And the personal growth and empowering others is so important in all that we do. And if it's a matter of team building or extra training, wherever we can find to build those, fill in those gaps, is going to help the team come better together.
So it sounds like you may have some people that are more only one type of person, or some that are a little, sort of more middle ground. And I guess in a pinch, those are the ones you might coach to sort of cross over. Is that accurate or no?
No, that is very accurate.
Got it.
And I'm holding my hands like a circle because DiSC, sometimes you can see it as a square, but my DiSC, when I put together my team, and I've had all my team take the DiSC personality, I put them on the circle. Okay, how close are you to another point on the circle? How close are you from being an S to an I or an S to a D? And those that are more in the middle, they're going to be able to flex quicker to those other personalities. And knowing that is going to help you determine, okay, this person has a little bit more strengths here. Let's develop that.
Yeah.
For sure. I think one of the challenges that I've seen over the years with leaders, whether it's an entrepreneur or whether it's just a department leader, is the hesitancy to delegate, or even maybe the inability to delegate because they feel like, well, I know how to do it and do it better than anybody else on the team, right? So I'm not going to do it, but then that creates a bottleneck. So how could someone use DiSC to kind of either help them decide what to delegate or how to give those instructions appropriately so that that person that's picking up that slack is going to be able to do it the way the leader wants it done?
Yeah. And you've hit on two very important things. You talk about what you delegate and also how you delegate it. So there's two different ways of looking at that. There's different members of our team that it's like, okay, what we delegate to them, they may already have skills and knowledge in that area. But it's how you delegate is going to be the most successful. So when you look at, for example, Ds who want to know what needs to get done, okay, give them the authority and avoid the micromanaging because you know they're going to get it done. Our Is, they love to connect with the people and the purpose. We need to confirm follow-up steps. So with the Is, when you're giving them that authority to do something, you're going to then make sure, okay, we're going to follow up on this date and this date. Our S's, they want to know just clarity. What needs to be done? How can we get it done? And just reinforce support. S's like stability. They like to make sure they're safe and secure. And our C's, they want to know the standards. They want to know the details of what needs to be done. And how can they be successful with it? I look at when we delegate, we look at the responsibility. Is if someone can do it better than me, let's give them the responsibility to do it. Give them the authority. At what point do you want to be brought in on the decision? I always look at, you can start with, okay, go do the research and come back and let's talk about it. And I'll make the decision. Next level, okay, do the research and come back and give me your recommendation.
Mhm.
And then you can build on that. Let's do the research, look into it, tell me your recommendation, tell me what you did.
Mhm.
And then the highest authority is just let me know what you did. And when we can do that based on their style, then the team's going to be successful and the organization is going to be successful.
Sounds good.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I'm a little curious about like conflict resolution, like and how DiSC might apply to that. So, it's often, I guess, sometimes when you're in it, it feels like it's very personal, but it sounds like DiSC's approach is that could be structural. So, like, how does the language, how does it work, and how do you solve those problems?
Drama at work.
That never happens.
No, that never happens. Once again, being aware of your style and how you come at it. As I mentioned, our Ds can be very direct
Mm-hmm.
and almost unapologetically direct.
Yeah.
So they are really good at taking the emotions out of things. However, they might be so direct that people are going to shrink back.
Yeah.
So self-awareness of yourself and how you're coming to the table, self-awareness of the situation, being curious and asking questions, and being able to separate the gossip
Mm-hmm.
from the facts. Think about an iceberg. We see what's on top. We see maybe it's the person coming to work late. We see how it's affecting other staff, but we don't know what's under the water.
Mm-hmm.
Perhaps there's issues going on at home, or maybe there's some other conflict going on between the staff members. So being curious and asking questions is so very important.
Mm-hmm.
Being aware of the situation, being self-aware, then understanding how is that person more than likely going to react. Because once we know the pattern of
Mm-hmm.
people and their communication styles, we know that our Ds will become defensive. Our Is will just make light of the situation. Our S's, they tend to get quiet and shrink.
Mm-hmm.
Our C's get so involved in the details that there's no action taken. So knowing how each person is going to react in the situation can help you then bring them together
Mm-hmm.
in a better situation, knowing how to set it up. And then that's a matter then, okay, let's have the conversation. Let's separate the emotions from this. Let's just work on the facts.
Mm-hmm.
Let's find out what are the expectations. How can we, what is going to look success in this situation?
Yeah.
And then brainstorm an idea as to, okay, what's going to work best and how can we implement that and move forward? Having these difficult conversations, we avoid them so much, but
Mm-hmm.
when we start to have small, courageous conversations, even at the grocery store, when something rings up with the wrong price and you speak up, and that might seem minor to some people, but having the courage to speak up then builds that ability to then have a courageous conversation when it comes up at work, that difficult conversation. And knowing your style and how you come forward is going to have a successful conversation.
Yeah. So I guess depending on their style as well, if you're having to correct someone in some way, like adjust a behavior, I guess how you deliver that correction would change as well, slightly, perhaps.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The D wants to know, what did I do? Let me get it corrected and move on.
Yeah.
The S's want to be reassured
Mm-hmm.
of what they're doing well, and how they can do better.
Yeah.
The eyes, they want to be appreciated.
Mm-hmm.
They always want to be included. So they also need reassurance of where they're doing well. What is this conversation not about?
Yeah.
If it's someone in customer service, is their customer service good? Or is it an issue with their attendance? So reassure them what's going well, but then let's focus in on where the real problem lies here.
Yeah.
And relate to them the way they want to be related to.
I can see this as as very impactful for teams where not everybody feels heard all of the time. And as a leader, being able to interact with them in a way that is comfortable for them, right? Would open up more conversations. And I'm just curious, and this is just off the top of my head, but I'm just curious, like after somebody, a leader and their department go through something like this with you, or even an entrepreneur with their team goes through something like this with you, what kind of benefits have you seen as a result of that?
The benefits, the courage and the confidence grows as an individual. That's a big thing. It's that aha moment. It's like, oh, that's why I behave in this way. That's why I'm slow to take action because I want more details. Or I'm slow to take action because I don't understand what the outcome is going to be. So first there's that aha moment within the individual. And then they start to look around them and realize, oh, that's why my colleague over here, he asks me a lot of questions. Well, he's a high C.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And so then you find that they're now better able to communicate with the person, sitting next to them, or the client on the phone. Why is this client calling and asking for all these details, but this other client is like, oh, that's fine, just do it and send me the bill?
Yeah. I've seen some talent acquisition teams who have gone through this that actually put their type in their signature lines.
Yeah.
That's smart.
And I think maybe that's because the department wants it reinforced, on an ongoing basis, or maybe it's something that they're rolling out throughout that company. And so they want everybody to kind of be aware going into a conversation, how to approach that person. I thought that was fascinating.
Yeah. And you can use it in meetings too. If you know that who your S's are in the teams, because they aren't as confident to speak up all the time or ask the questions. One is to let the whole team know in advance what's on the agenda. This allows someone to prepare. And in a meeting, you can have different ways to ask for input. One is you can have people write it on Post-its. Some people might be more confident writing their thoughts and ideas on a Post-it and then reading from there. You can also set it up so that, okay, Mark is going to speak next on this topic, and I haven't heard from you, Sue, so we're going to come to you next. So that sets them up for success, and they can prepare, their comments. And so knowing your different personalities, I always liked it when I worked within larger teams. You know who your eyes were, the ones who love to go around and talk to everybody. And if there was something important you wanted everyone to know quickly, it's like, I'm going to go tell this person. and the team would know.
That's smart. That's really smart. Well, this has been really insightful. We're definitely wrapping up. We're out of time for today, but we covered a lot of really helpful and actionable items. So we appreciate that.
Absolutely.
For sure. So I just want to say thanks to everyone who's joining and watching the show. We hope you found the Ready, Set, Action episode helpful to you as well. Feel free to post comments in the comment section, and we'll get to those as we can. Thank you again to Virginia. We really appreciate you joining us. And
Yes.
everyone, don't forget to follow us on LinkedIn or YouTube. You can get alerts for upcoming episodes and also view past events. So take care, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. Have a good day.
All right, bye.